Hi there, welcome to the archive. It's not Black History Month. I saw right now the conversation is like this idea that like immigrants built the United States is frustrating a lot of people because it erases Black Americans who have been there for 400, 300, 200, over 100 years. And I shared yesterday in as we're getting started into Sojourner Truth's book, how some of the Dutch settlers had brought enslaved Africans from the West Indies. Um, they were still enslaved, right? And this is early because you have to remember that was about 5 years after the first ship had arrived. So no doubt there were already black enslaved Africans in the United States at that point, but for whatever reason, that family was in the Caribbean before the West Indies and then went there. Anyways, it reminded me to go back. Last night I did a poetry class. I wrote a poem last night, and I've been thinking about poetry. And my introduction to Black American poetry specifically came from this book. I think I was 10 years old. I shared it already. Yeah, I got this from as a Christmas gift in 1995 um, from Santa, which is really my uncle and my aunt. But anyways, poetry is something that I think really helps in these kinds of moments. And so I was thinking of this book, also because I just posted Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes came up, and Langston Hughes is in this book a lot. This was my introduction to Langston Hughes as a poet when I was 10 years old. Around that same time, I was also introduced to Zora Neale Hurston because I loved watching ghostwriters as a kid, and they went to the Zora Neale Hurston Public High School or something like that in New York City. So last night as I was writing the poem, I was thinking I should go back to this book and share a poem from here. Gwendolyn Brooks is coming up for me. I think I'm going to do one from Gwendolyn Brooks because it's called Building. And I think the reason, all to say, the long 3 minute blah, 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 was to say I want to share a poem from Gwendolyn Brooks because it connects to this conversation we're having right now about remembering that a lot of Black American folks, I would argue, in much of the West, including Canada, the Caribbean for sure. Somebody in the comments said, "Don't forget about Colombia." Yeah, you're right. You see what I'm saying? The enslaved Africans also were sent to Colombia and parts of South America, Central and South America. But Gwendolyn Brooks wrote this poem called Building, okay? When I see a brave building straining high and higher, hard and bright and sassy in the seasons, I think of the hands that put that strength together. The little soft hands, hands coming away from cold to take a challenge and to mold this definition. Amazingly, men and women worked with design and judgment, steel and glass, to enact this announcement. Here it stands. Who can construct such miracle can enact any consolidation, any fusion. All little people opening out of themselves, forging the human spirit that can outwit big building boasting in the city world. So that was Gwendolyn Brooks, their poem called Building. Okay? So just wanted to share that. This is a really good book. The artwork that's on the other side of the page, this is the artwork that's on the other side of the page. It is called On the Way by Jacob Lawrence. It was done in 1990 and it was commissioned by the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Again, I'm really glad I got introduced to this at 10 years old because it really started to open my eyes. It talks about Frederick Douglass is in here. So this is a sign that says to be sold on Thursday, the 3rd day of August next, a cargo of 94 prime healthy Negroes consisting of 39 men, 15 boys, 24 women, and 16 girls just arrived in the Brigantine Dembia Francis Bear Mafter from Sierra Leone by David and John Diaz. Talks about Oladua Ekwano or Gustavus Vassa, the African, written by himself, which was published in 1814. So, anyways, I just wanted to share a poem today. That's all. So that was Gwendolyn Brooks, Building a Day, um, in Solidarity.